Hello, everyone. Welcome to this week's FPV Podcast. This week, we got somebody who's been with the FPV community, industry, for a very long time. He's done a lot of interesting things, so we're really glad to have him on. You kind of already know if you listened to last week's FPV Podcast, but before we introduce him, Elvin, what do you got this week?
Hey, everybody. How you guys? Beep! And what that beep? And hey, guys, check it out. Going down to the beep. And we'll talk later. Beep. And hi, Shawn.
Yep, that's about Elvin. Right? That's about right.
Like, is this a fail-safe podcast? What did I miss?
Yeah, he fail-safes a lot too. Shawn, please introduce yourself.
Yeah, hey guys, I am Shawn Ames. I am a drone team racing enthusiast. I am an obsessive hobbyist. I obsess over every hobby I take on. And then my day job, I am a high volume residential real estate agent here in Moberly, Missouri. So I'm right at literally 2-year birthday. I'm right at my 2-year birthday with being an FPV guy and just jumping in with, both feet, both hands. Sometimes I lose track of where I'm at and having a blast doing team racing. Our team is Heart of America FPV. We started that back at MDX. We can get into that later, but we have one sponsor right now working on building a team fleet, and we're so honored to be sponsored now by Flight Club. So Mike over there at Flight Club hooked us up for our team fleet, and our entire fleet is featuring the Flight Club Proton, which is an unbelievable frame. I had been on a floss frame, which was great. It was a great frame. It served me very, very well. I'd actually been on that frame since MDX last year when I met you guys. But switching over to this Flight One Proton has just been absolutely mind blowing. So anyway, that's me, Shawn Ames, Heart of America FPV. Big thanks to Mike over there at Flight Club.
Awesome. And he's doing some really interesting things with team racing right now. And we're really going to get into a lot of that because he brings a lot of new ideas that never really thought about. And that's what we need right now. And, we need more team stuff because it is a lot of fun to go to those events. But I'm jumping ahead of myself. Shawn, how'd you get into RC and FPV?
Gosh, it goes way back. I'm a Part 107 pilot. Being a realtor, I don't even know where to start. So prior to being in real estate, I had a more creative job. I was a creative director for a nonprofit. And when I stopped doing that and started selling real estate, I jumped into that with both feet, and I'm still swimming in that every day, having a blast. I got my Part 107, or I got a drone, right? I saw a drone photo, not anything cool, not FPV. And I got a drone. I started using that for real estate illegally, right? The first day I could take my Part 107. The second day I could take my Part 107 test, I did. Became a commercial UAV operator. I've actually taken my second test already. I'm good for another 2 years. At the end of the day, it's sort of related to FPV. At the same time, it's such a different world. Honestly, those two worlds never really came together for me. Obviously, they're related, and the story goes that I was checking out the Phantom stuff because I had Phantoms. I've still got a Phantom 3, and I watched a Phantom 4 review by Casey Neistat. Okay, all right. So this is the trip down the rabbit hole. So Casey Neistat, and I'll tell you, I was blown away by vlogging. I thought vlogging, and why I know you've got a lot of vlogging material here on your channel. I like to check that out. But I just thought vlogging was so compelling. I've gotten sick of TV. Casey had this like crazy laugh, and he reminded me, he's a year older than I am, reminded me of myself. Like, gosh, this is really cool. And from my creative past, not doing that anymore and doing real estate. Obviously, I'm taking drone photos, and I can be creative in marketing, but I was missing that like creative thing. So I jumped in at that point to the vlogging deal, and I daily vlogged as our family for a year, which is nutty. You can kind of you can go back and watch my entry into FPV through those vlogs because
awesome.
It's neat. 2 years ago, here coming up, I built my first racing quad, and it's neat to go back and like see that, how lost I was. But So doing the daily vlog, I was trying to do interesting things with the family. We went out and bought some toys one day at Walmart, and I bought a toy for myself, and I bought myself a styrofoam airplane, right? You know what I'm talking about, like the gliders, you put them together. And like I immediately got home and took a hot knife to it and like stuck a GoPro on it, right? And started throwing it around. And I've been doing the Part 107 work, and this is so ignorant, but I thought I had replaced a motor on the Phantom, and when I did, I bought an extra. So I had an extra Phantom motor. I didn't know what there was a 3-phase motor, AC motor. I had no idea how it even worked, but I'm like, I wonder if I could wire this up. And what would happen if I put a motor on this glider and like I wanted to like free flight, like just let it go forever. That pushed me to YouTube. That's where we learn everything, right?
Right.
On the YouTube University. So that pushed me to YouTube. I found Flight Test.
Oh, yep.
And realized that it's not, I can't just put a 9-volt battery to an AC motor and expect it to do anything. I realized there was a lot more to it. I bought some radio equipment, some servos, and I was going to make that styrofoam plane fly. Like that was I wanted to do that. And my kids broke that plane, so I ended up buying a speed build kit from Flight Test. So big time shout out to those guys, man. Flight Test, when it comes to flying things, they definitely, lead the way for a lot of people. And for me, that was really the thing. So
they've been in it for a long time. A lot of people don't realize that Flight Test has been around for like 10 years, almost 10 years.
Oh yeah. Like, they predate, most of YouTube. So it's really, it was really neat. So I started trying to fly these wings, and it's funny because you can see it on these vlogs, and the vlog was life in the flyover, because I thought drones, photography drones were cool. So, you can go back, and I did not have success with wings. It was terrible. I remember because I thought getting into it, I fly a Phantom, so how hard can this be? It's a completely different monster. And I just crashed these things all over. I built a handful of, I built a Stork, and then I finally, probably my most success was with a tiny trainer from Flight Test. I got that flying. And then eventually I put an FPV camera on that, and I bought a little FPV screen headset combo, right? I from looking at Flight Test, they talked about these acrobatic, FPV drones. And I was, I'm into the cool stuff, right? I view it a lot different now, but the DJI gear is wonderful, but those are AARP drones. You know what I mean? Like, you get a discount at KFC for being 55 and over if you think those are
right.
But I eventually, I'm like, well, I've got the radio now. I've got an FPV camera. I've got a set of goggles. Like, I've got pretty much everything I need to build this racing drone. So I bought some ESCs and a frame. And the one thing is, YouTube can get a little dated. So when you go to YouTube, and this is something I haven't really heard talked about in the hobby, but when you go to YouTube and think look up a video of how to build a drone, guys put them out every 6 months, every year. Well, a lot changes in 6 months or a year. Like, I bought the crappiest gear because I watched a video that was a year old, and in drone years, that's like 8 years. So, so I had like a Naze 32 board when I could have easily got an F3, there's OSD now, like there was a lot of things that I was missing out on that just
you thought you were up to date on.
Yeah, because I'm like, oh, this video is only a year old. What could have changed? Right. You just don't know these things. But I built one and I crashed it all. I mean, I just tore it to crap, and that rabbit hole has proven to be unbelievably deep. So that is and if you want to really laugh with me, like I said, check out that vlog channel. I've abandoned it now. When I started doing, we ended it after a year to save my marriage. I say that as a joke, but my wife would nod. If she was here. I tell people I have a very supportive wife. A lot of it comes down to the fact that as long as I'm not vlogging, I can do almost whatever I want, as long as that camera's not on every day, because that took a toll. Daily vlogging, and it's like you got 9 months in, and it's like, I can't quit now. I wanted to make that year, and it'll be neat in 20 years when my kids are married, to look back. Even now, it's funny to look back and see what those days were like. I watch one every now and again. It's a little cringy, but anyway, yeah. So FPV took over that spot.
Oh my God, I said that on camera.
Yeah. Pretty cringy, but it's out there and it is what it is. And FPV, literally my first drone race was my second to last daily vlog. And so it was a very clean transition to racing these robots. And I like the freestyle stuff, but racing, really sparked an interest and really grabbed onto that competitive side of me, even though I wasn't super good at it. Like, I wanted to get better. Yeah. So the rest is all uphill from there.
That's a really interesting story. There are so many facets of that story that we can dig into, but just for the sake of time, we're not going to do that. But hey, kudos for you to actually trying, because there's so many people that talk about literally 5 things that you said and they never do it because they're too scared, and you just jumped straight in and you just did all of them. And I was like, man, that's impressive. It's hard. Okay.
And I think that's what draws me to things, is them being hard. My pilot handle is really just my email address, but I've got friends that joke around and say that, to shame something is to take it to a level that no one knew existed. I would always grab onto these, whether it was slow pitch softball or I've ran a marathon, I got into running, whatever it was I did, I was all in, so it's, I take things to an extreme level a lot of times.
Ain't nothing wrong with that, man. Ain't nothing wrong with that.
Yep, show some courage right there. All right, so let's talk a little bit about current events right now in terms of what you're doing. You're one of the few people that I know that actually has a permanent track set up, which is really interesting. It's actually very good for the sport hobby community in general. Tell me what's going on with that and how you got that set up.
Yeah, so I guess most of the guys that get into this hobby that have my type of mental illness or passion, we start race directing, right? It's a natural thing. If you're a certain personality type and you're into drone racing, you start race directing, you start putting on events. And the worst thing about putting on an event is dragging all the gear and setting up the gear at the event. And I wanted to live stream at when I was doing creative direction for the nonprofit. It was a progressive church, but we did live streaming there, so that was kind of in my wheelhouse that I knew how to do that. So of course I've got to do that for our drone races. But then it's you're lugging all this crap, and then you're you don't have reliable Wi-Fi. It's a headache. So I recognize that, and I'd done a lot of events last year. We got our chapter to a tier 2 with MultiGP, which is a phenomenal race organization. I really appreciate what those guys are doing for the hobby. But then this last April, myself and our team, we went to Open Grove Raceway out in California for the Night Fury Dolma call out race. So I actually went out there and helped them live stream that. Was my role, but then our team, since I was going and I was going to have a hotel room, our team went out too. So I was working, so I didn't get to actually participate. But Heart of America FPV, we stomped everybody out there. It was a big honor. We took home the win at Open Grove. That's our one team win, and that was a big one. We were up against all the Pyro drone teams and EMAX, and the guys that have developed. Actually, I would say all the guys that have developed. I don't know if I can say all. The 2 pit switches that I know of that are currently available on the market, both of those guys were there and got beat by our team with a pit switch. So I like to think that maybe that had a little something to do with it. But
bragging rights. Bragging rights.
It works.
Anyway, so went out to Open Grove, and so if you're not familiar with Open Grove, it's a racetrack, right? But not only that, but it's a guy's house. So it's Joe is his name, the guy that runs Open Grove. It's his family's farm, and he's got a gun range. This is a cool place. If you ever get a chance to go see Open Grove, you've got to. And Joe, I'll tell you, I've met a lot of really wonderful people in drone racing, but Joe is one of the warmest, most sincere, kind-hearted, yet he's aggressive in the sense in the way he's pushing this stuff forward. but he really inspired me. Like, so I'm in real estate, and we knew we were going to be making a move at some point. We had built a house and finished the basement, and it was a lot bigger than what we needed. And we knew we wanted a little bit of outside space, but I started looking for something with a lot of bit of outside space,
Right.
And so that was on the radar. My wife knew it. It's no secret. My kids joke that like we like this house a lot because it's a good drone racing house. But that's it. And no one can afford to buy a property that's just drone racing. But what I realized with Joe is it's his farm. It's his family farm. It's where they work. It's where they live. Like, it just happens to have enough area that he can devote this 2 acres to be a drone racing track. And
right.
And so that's what we were kind of looking for. And
that means the farm is doing good.
Yeah, right.
That means everybody.
Yeah. So Joe was really an inspiration to me. And so we started looking at it from that perspective. There was a property that needed renovated very close to where we used to live. It was being auctioned, and it actually got auctioned off the weekend of International Open. So it was around my daughter's birthday, and so my wife actually drove with our other daughter to Indianapolis, or to Muncie, excuse me. Anyone from Muncie right now is really offended. I just called it Indianapolis, but no. She brought my daughter to Muncie, and so we were away, but we had a broker, someone there bidding for us. Mm-hmm. Well, that Saturday was the auction, and we didn't get it. The property, ended up it was like 6 acres in the middle of town. A developer bought it. They're going to bulldoze the house and make a subdivision, I assume. It's worth more to them than us. We were going to have to spend as much as we spent on the house to renovate it. It was pretty rough. But so we were kind of bummed or whatever. And literally, I'm like, my wife was in a hotel. My oldest daughter and myself are camping at IO, and I lay down to bed, and like everybody, I look at my phone, and I saw this other house come up for sale that night while we were, there in Muncie. Mm-hmm. And that ended up being the place we bought. It was a property in our town here. We're in a town of 13,000. It's a small town, so we pretty much we're aware of every house. And we kind of knew it was going to be the right fit. It was the right kind of house, the right amenities in regard to the home. And we really liked the idea of how the yard was set up. Not only would it be a good spot because, on the lowest end, I wanted to have a spot that I could practice at full stick, set up an actual track and have my buddies over and practice. But the way this is set up, I'm in the race cabin now. There's this small cabin. It's wood heated. I've got the wood stove, and it's like 85 degrees in here right now. I'm cooking pretty good. But there's a cabin down here. There's a good area for a track. And so yeah, we're doing races here. We had our first race about a month ago. We're getting ready to do our second race. We've set up what we call a permanent time trial track. So this is kind of interesting. Multi-GP has our universal time trial tracks, which is a track you can set up anywhere. Well, what we've done is we've kind of taken that concept, and instead of doing it as an anywhere track, it's a very specific only here track. And it's a track that consists of 2 gates. So I can easily put those gates up and let guys log times on the permanent time trial track. So we have a leaderboard. One of my teammates, Mondo, is currently the leader. We do 3 laps on the track, and he's got a 34.405. I'm currently in second place. And then our buddy AK Numbers from Central Illinois, he's got a time in, but he didn't give it a whole lot of attempts. But yeah, so we're going to kind of track that. And if anyone wants to show up and post a time on that permanent time trial track and be the leader, they can. So yeah, those are all the fun things we're doing here at the Heart of America home field, I guess.
That's pretty awesome that you actually have a track at your house. Definitely hope that it actually goes really well and you draw a big community, or you can create a big community. Now, let's go ahead and talk about the Dream Racing event that you're cooking up, which is something that's super interesting. Can you tell me a little bit about it?
Yeah, no, absolutely. So, we're watching the weather because I'm in the Midwest. Since we've got this heated cabin, like, I'm okay with cold weather racing. Actually, I think it's kind of ideal for cold weather racing. But right now I've got like 6 inches of snow. So if it's supposed to rain Friday, so like who knows? As long as it's not a swamp, as long as there's not inches of snow, we'll probably we will probably move forward with it. So I initially pitched this idea back before International Open, and the goal was to try it there, but I hadn't been to International Open before, and I didn't realize the chaos that would ensue while you're there. Like, there's just not enough time to, I don't know. There was just so much other stuff I felt like I had to do that I didn't get a chance to put the energy into like doing this, because I wanted to do like a trial test of this concept. But our team, like I said, we came up with the concept of doing VTX, remote control VTX power on and off, which let us have like unbelievable, really clean, pit stops and team racing. But we did that with an RC switch, and then kind of everyone liked the idea of being able to turn it on and off, but we couldn't, people couldn't come up with a way to do it with easily with hardware that was on the market. So they came up with the graveyard channel. If you're not familiar with that, it's where you're on your channel and you can flip a switch, and via beta flight or flight 1 or whatever, you can change the VTX to a different kind of parked channel. And I thought that was going to be a nightmare initially when we did that, but I was pretty surprised at how well it worked. It doesn't, you don't. I thought, well, if you got 4 quads on this graveyard channel, it's going to bleed or whatever. It doesn't. I mean. We did a race in Vegas, XDC. We did a team race there where we represented drone space. Everyone was pretty much using a graveyard channel. The RF environment was really bad in general.
Yep. But
the graveyard channel wasn't the problem. I was really surprised by it. So kind of, after that and leading up to I/O, I came up with the concept of using these team racing tricks, turning your VTX off or putting it on the graveyard channel. I figured out a way that as an individual pilot that I could power on 3 quads at a time and take off. So that's good for practice. I know Olaf has said he's made a VTX power switch called the VTX Assassin. Obviously, Tiny's LEDs, they've got their real pit that works phenomenal. Olaf does it for practice. He instead of going in and out with all these quads, he just powers 3 on and there he flies for 6 minutes or whatever. Like, it's just better for practice. But I came up with the concept of doing that. So you can control, there's some mode switching you have to do. So you put fail safe or pre-arm. You can do it both ways. The other guys came up with doing it through fail safe, and it's actually brilliant. So you make it to where if 1 quad is on, the other 2 quads are fail safe and the VTX is off. So it can't be controlled, and it's not outputting video on your channel. So you've got your 3 quads, you stick them on the line, powered up, and we run a 5-minute heat. I'm kind of torn, like, should I make it longer? Should I make it shorter? My thought is a 5-minute heat can still be completed with 2 quads if you're conservative, right? You should be able to get 2:30 if you had to, or if you're not conservative so if you crash, then you can get it done with 2 quads. So it's almost like it's a 2 quad race, but you've got a third as a backup. Yeah. So whether you crash or whether you, you deplete your battery, you take off with the next quad. And so that's the concept. And the idea is that, this racing for 2 minute stuff is kind of a drag, like there's not a lot of sports where the race only lasts 2 minutes. And, this was just a way that I thought was kind of an interesting thing. We all have a dream that someday race heats. I have a dream that someday the race heats will last longer than 2 minutes. So
keep dream.
Yeah. Yep. So we're gonna give it a shot. We're scheduled. I'm not sure when this will come out, but December 8th. We are hoping to do this dream race. It's not a team race; it's a dream race. It's using team methods. Right now, we've got some of our local guys from St. Louis that are coming over for it. There's a group I think that are planning on coming still from Memphis, the Team White Goat guys. You gotta love those guys, So looking forward to seeing them. We're watching the weather. Hopefully, we can do it. We're gonna do it. I just don't know when,
I got you.
Obviously, December after the 8th is going to get crazy with Christmas stuff. And then January, we might be able to get it in there in January sometime. We're kind of keeping our eye out. Team racing is a big focus of ours. We've got some guys that want to go to Sebring if Sebring happens. Who knows? It's getting kind of late if they're going to announce it. So we're watching that. We would love for the cave race to happen. We've got a team that's ready to go for the cave race if it happens. But and then in April, we started chatting today a little bit about the Mayhem race that Shannon's doing down in Louisiana. So that one is a spectacle. That would be wild. Shannon is such a cool dude, man, to come up with the idea to race for 12 hours. I just think of like all the batteries, and I love Shannon. He's so awesome. But I'm like we did the math. I think it's like 288 battery cycles, if you don't crash. And then it's like how many arms, we're doing a team fleet, but how big does that fleet have to be? Anyway, we would love to go down. We're talking, we're hopeful we can get a team to go down. We're a good team. And, we'll get into the team if you want to know the history of that. Sorry. I could go why.
Here's what I love about, at the beginning of the show, I said that you're, introducing some great concepts to the teams. Mm-hmm. This is one of them that I really like, in which, the team, like, I think in order for you to be truly called a racing team or an FPV racing team, you need to be able to host one team event in your backyard, Yeah.
And
if every, FPV racing team were to do that, we would have a circuit, and that's what we need. Oh. So, like, if you consider yourself a team, then it's like I know event organizing is tough and nobody really wants to do it because it's really hard and it takes a lot of work. But hey, if you want a circuit, this is a way to do it. And Shawn's showing you the way to do it. It's like, get somebody.
I think you just invented it. Why? I think you did. I think this summer you're going to see the Y-Lam team racing circuit inspired by Y-Lam himself, man.
I would love to see that.
Sponsored by the FPV Podcast.
There we go. Hey, we will come out and we will promote you. We will promote you. Because we love team racing, because it is by far the most entertaining race there is.
So much fun.
And there's so many good concepts. Like, we tease Shannon about his craziness because we did the math on the battery cycles. It's like, dude, like, you basically buy a new battery and by half a day it'll be a dead battery.
Yeah. It's gone.
Yep. But it's right, his race is for 8 pilots. We were like, well, each pilot could bring 6 batteries, but then you're probably gonna have to throw it away afterwards,
Right. Well, if you only using 6 batteries, that's crazy.
Well, 6 batteries per pilot, so then I think it ends up being 6 cycles per battery, which isn't that bad. It's not that bad, but
constantly charge. I don't know.
They better have some big old diesel, DC generators going. Yeah, it'll be humming.
Yeah,
a lot of maw.
Wait. Some people gonna come out of there irradiating.
Yeah, right.
What happened, dude? He was standing by the charge vehicle.
Trying to speed up this global warming thing, right?
Yeah. One thing that I wanted to tease Shannon's on, it's like, dude, you got to get the vendors in. It's like, they always say like your ESCs are the best. Well, hey, if it can survive 24 hours of brutality, that's something. Right. Rubber stamp. It's approved.
China hobby coming in.
I love the concept, and definitely keep us posted on that, because we definitely want to talk to you when you get that started, and pre and post, so to see how it goes, because I think there's the most innovation that's going on in racing right now is the team stuff, because every team has something different. Like FPV Canada has this crazy strategy. Every single time I talk about it, they're on me saying, you can't talk about it, that's our secret. It's like, okay, well, whatever. And like, you guys have your own.
Team Canada's going down. Okay.
All right.
They got us at IO, right?
Yeah.
They beat us at IO. But I was flying at IO, Team Canada. Okay. Let's get our top 4 guys on the line.
You had a pretty stacked team. Come on now. I saw your team. It was pretty stacked.
I love Team Canada. Like kind of the history of our team was, it started at MDX. So I went to MDX. And since I was kind of just a guy's trip for me by myself, I went by myself. Yep. I was allowed to vlog. Okay, like my wife couldn't get mad at me for vlogging, so I didn't really know anybody. I knew guys I'd met at Memphis, or I knew a handful of guys that I'd met through the year. But I didn't really have anyone that was like, it wasn't like a big party. I met you guys, we chatted at MDX, but I brought my computer, I brought the vlogging gear, and I vlogged. I did daily vlogs for MDX. I had a good time. And what's funny is now that, like, when I was when I was vlogging, that race, or like when I vlogged my first race while I was still daily vlogging, I'm like, from my perspective, I hadn't seen the entire internet, but my perspective was, there needs to be more race vlogs. I don't know why more guys aren't race vlogging. But now when I kind of go back and I see that like almost every pro pilot vlogged their first race, or like their second race or a few races, and they stop because they want to win races because it's hard, it's hard to focus on like making a vlog and that. But that MDX vlog was great. I had vlogged actually I won the golden ticket to the MDX race at a race in Memphis. And I had vlogged that race, so early on I was vlogging a lot of races because it was I had an excuse to, and I was still I still enjoyed making those vlogs. Once you stop, it's hard to pick back up. Okay. Yeah. But at MDX, I was making these vlogs, and I was staying at the Hilton, the Red Roof Inn, and a lot of the other pilots were there, right? So like at night, we were kind of hanging out and chit-chatting. What really struck me is I saw the team event at MDX. And then I took podium pictures. So a lot of the podium pictures you see from MDX last year I had taken because I had the vlogging, my vlogging year's
I wasn't in there.
Yeah. Yeah, me neither. It's okay. But I remember, if you remember, like the Team Canada podium pictures, man, you remember that from MDX?
Yeah.
Those guys, and probably everyone that actually, if you look at IO when they kicked our butts, they didn't kick our butts. They won by a thin margin. No, they got
very thin margin.
But when you look at Team Canada, they're having so much fun. And I told myself that like I want to get a group of guys. I want to go like I like vlogging. I like editing. I'm pretty fast at it. Daily vlogging, you get really good at editing because I was uploading at night. You know what I mean? Like
I know.
My goal, it's a grind. And so I like it. It's fun, but I like people, and I like sharing this with people, and sharing it with my family's fun. My daughters, they fly whoops and a little bit of 5-inch stuff. My wife is supportive, but like, still, it's like I like the idea of having a community and a posse. There's a community, but then there's like you want to have your posse, and that was just seeing Team Canada, the way they conducted themselves at MDX. I was like, that's it. I'm getting a crew, a gang, a gaggle, whatever it is. I'm going to go to a race.
I like the posse thing. I like that.
So like
I'm a team. I'm in the West.
Yeah.
I'm in the.
Beyond just the concept of like, having a group of friends, but then it's like the team racing thing was really compelling too. Seeing that, I was like, oh, there's actual strategy, because I might have been attracted to it because I'm not the fastest pilot,
Right.
And so I was kind of attracted to the idea that I'm a bit of a critical thinker, and so man, I might be able to bring something to the table when it comes to this team stuff. So it's funny, like you're at a big race like that, and I distinctly remember it leaving. I talked to, I think I had chatted with Kevin, Evan's dad, toward the end, the last day or so. They were there as a family, and really, really love those guys. But he's like, no, I think I think he said, well, I think Sebring's the next one, and I'm like, what's this Sebring thing you talk about? And then literally rolling my stuff out to the car. I had really bad plantar fasciitis that week, and so I was just dragging my bloody stubs, what they felt like my feet, out of that cave. And I remember hauling my stuff out to the car, and I saw Nub. I remember him. He was like, oh, I'm going to take a break for a while, but I'm probably going to try to go to Sebring. And I'm like, I guess I got to look into Sebring, So I got home and started, I'm such a freaking addict with this stuff. But I got home, started looking into Sebring, and then I'm like, they're doing a team race. We need to do a team race. Dang it. So I bought a team ticket, I think. I just went and I bought it. I'm doing a team. And I contacted the guys here local to me that I know. And literally at that time, because I'm getting better. I joke around. I'm slower or whatever. Last year I wasn't able to qualify for Nats. This year I'm on the list, So I think I'm top 100, which is really exciting for me. But anyway, my whole thing is I want to be better tomorrow than I am today. I want to be better today than I was yesterday. And as long as I'm progressing, like it's a thrill, and it's the game, it's the chase for me. But I went out and started reaching out to the guys in our region that are nice and fast. I recognized really when it boils down to it, I literally messaged everybody who I knew was faster than me in my area.
Yeah,
like. Hey, who wants to go to Florida in January? That's sounds
not
fun,
a dumb move, man.
Let's do. I was like, let's do this. Here's a Airbnb that we can rent, or my wife technically can rent because they banned me from their site. My posse will know what that's about. So we rented an Airbnb, and then I'm like, well, hey, check it out. This room's got 2 sets of bunk beds, right? You can have a bunk for the week for $25. Like I sold out the different beds. Or if you want a private room, it's $125. Or like I don't know how to split it up, but like
Wide knows how to do that too.
If you want to come do this, like we're gonna do this. And then me and my wife came with me because she wanted to go to Florida in January. You know how that is. We got the master bedroom, so like she could have her own little space to herself, and the drone house wasn't too crazy. But we did Sebring. So I invited a lot of guys. Half of them raised their hand and said, I want to do this. This sounds fun. So Tristan Racebot from Lincoln, gosh, that kid is he's super fast, super cool. And he was just like, yeah, let's do it. And his parents are really supportive. And so they put him on a plane with me. I guess I look trustworthy enough that he'd make it back. But he's an adult now, so you got to worry about it. But back then, he was still in high school. But him and then so the original team was him. I'd messaged more people, but they weren't up for it. But Tristan, and then up in Des Moines, Iowa, right? So it's like you'll see the circle around me. But up in Des Moines, Iowa was Christian Van Sloon, who won the North Central Regional Final this year, known as Amari, or as our buddy Nurk likes to call him, Armani. Excuse me, I messed it up. His name is Amari. Nerd calls him Armani. It's not funny. So him, and then 2 guys from St. Louis. So Mondo, his name's Armando. That dude is absolutely brilliant. And then our buddy Nick. Nick is a guy that, like, Nick's faster than me, but we are very, very closely matched. I tend to wreck less than he does. So it's like you can see him get frustrated because he knows he's so much faster than I am. But I've beat him at a lot of races just because I stay in the air.
That's
anyway, yeah. So that was our 5. That was our team. So we had 3 pilots, and then I was the crew chief for the captain, and Nick Knack was our pit guy. And we started putting our heads together. We wanted to be competitive. Brain Drain was at the very first race I ever went to, Brian Morris. And so I followed, like, I didn't know him that day. I remember I asked, what is his name? Bilbo, I think is his pilot name. But I asked him, I said, is there anyone here that's like known nationally, and he's like, well, that's Brain Drain. And I'm, well, I didn't know who Brain Drain was, but I looked him up. That might have been how I found your podcast. Has he been on your podcast? I don't know.
Yeah.
Like I went and like started listening to like podcasts that had Brain Drain on it, so I kind of like, got to know his career. And he's always said that when he goes into a race, they're setting out to tech a win. I don't know if you've heard Brain Drain say that, but sometimes you have to tech a win. You got to make sure that your machines are set up to win. It's not just about the piloting all the time. So I kind of took that to heart and started chatting with the guys, like, what can we do to push this forward and give ourselves a competitive advantage? And that's when I might get this wrong, but I think Amari, let the history book show that Christian, also known as Amari, said, man, it'd be cool if we could remotely turn our VTX off. And then Armando, who's freaking brilliant, got on Google and found us a switch that'll turn our VTX off. And it was a lot more complicated than that. That thing was a nightmare to get installed in our builds. But we did that. So it was so fun. Team racing, as you guys know, is chaos. Barely organized chaos. There's
controlled chaos.
That first Sebring, there was retrievers. They had an elevated track, so like there were people running out in hard hats, in golf carts, getting these drones and stuff. And someone's like plugged in on, one quad's plugged in when they're trying to get another quad up, and it's just like chaos. Like we're from, I think Tristan's 4 hours away from me. So is Amari. We met up at a big, it's a super fun site because there was some sort of chemical spill there, but this big warehouse.
Okay.
Yeah, we're all still living. It was, it was like, that was kind of a thing that, oh man, we could get cancer. So we met up and we practiced our pits, Most of these teams are from different places, and what we've noticed, almost every team that's out there, right? I've got a lot of respect for this guys, but whether it be Team Emax or Team Flight One or Team Hobby Wing, even Team Pyrodrone, Pyrodrone operates a lot like a team. They're getting better and better, and then they're just so stupid fast. Those guys on the Pyro team are so fast. But we know they don't really work as a team a lot of times. It's a collection of, oh, I'm a Futaba pilot, and you're a Futaba pilot, and Futaba says they'll give us X. I'm assuming they'll give us X dollars to come fly on the Futaba team, and they just kind of show up and wing it. There's money on the line. Why are we winging anything? You know what I mean? Like
I've said that before.
Yeah, and in team racing this last year, starting in Sebring and moving on to XDC, like there's been money on the line. So, we take it pretty serious. We've missed out on big money at a lot of these events. Sebring is our first one. We were set up with these pit switches. We could have been aggressive because we are the only team that could get a quad stuck up in a gate and still survive the round. No one else could, right? If their quad stuck in the gate powered on, the round is over.
Right.
Right. So we could have been as aggressive as we wanted, but we were cautious. It was our first time out. Like we were very cautious. And so the wild thing, if I could get this wrong, but as my memory serves, the top 6 teams from Sebring were going to XDC, which was the race in Vegas for I think $25,000. So big money in Vegas, right?
Right.
Man, we wanted to make it, and we came in at 7th.
Oh yeah, that hurts.
Yep. And so, but here's the thing. The Professor XDC, I'm blanking on his name right now, but over in Vegas, the guy that runs XDC, super cool guy. He had heard about our pit switch, and they knew in Vegas, XDC was going to be in a netted enclosure, right? Mm-hmm. And everyone starts having PTSD flashbacks of 2017 Nats, right? Of all these drones stuck in the net, like they can't power off. And so they knew they had to come up with some sort of solution. And that's when, if my memory serves me right, that's when Professor reached out to me. I feel terrible. I can't remember his name. I talked to him.
I can't think of it either.
Super cool guy, man. And just what he's doing over there with XDC is incredible. But he had reached out to me. What's this pit switch? What's this pit switch? Because that could be useful to us. And so he actually made a video demonstrating it, how it could work. And we said, well, this is how it works. Some of our teammates were like, don't share the secret. But we wanted to be helpful, right? So it's like, okay, well, this is how it works. And I shared a little video with him. And, hey, man, here you go. Happy to help. Like, let me know if a spot opens up.
There we go. Get in there.
And if you remember, Pyrodrone has, in some events, had a senior and a junior team. Mm-hmm. And I think it was their senior team dropped. And so they needed another team. So we got to go to Vegas, baby. So
there you go.
Vegas was our second race. Coming out of, I guess prior to that, we were a team of 5. Most of these races need at least 5 people, and that's all we had. So it's like, okay, we need to pick some guys up, and we ended up picking up Free Fall Chance, who is Chance, I would say, is one of the dominant light track style pilots that's ever flown FPV. Like he has really dominated these light tracks, and that XTC track was one of those. So we picked him up, and we actually picked up his whole family because his dad was like pretty much our crew chief from then on. Like Robert was amazing. Chance has since stepped back from the team. He's not doing team racing right now. He's focusing just on stuff at home, that kind of thing. But like racing at home, they do kind of a wide open track. What do they call it? They're doing a different kind of racing there in Colorado, which looks pretty cool. So look up Robert Hartman or Chance Hartman and see what the races they're doing, because they look pretty stinking neat. But they're focusing on that. But also for that race, we picked up another Colorado pilot named Timothy. He goes by Sky FPV, and Sky was unbelievably clutch. Yeah, it's crazy. He's a guy that you wouldn't necessarily know but he's brilliant and he's so fast. So he's going to Nats too. He's up on the list. He's faster than I am by far, but he's brilliant. He has built a sim. I think if you look up, if you find his page, Sky FPV on Facebook, I think he's talking about his sim a bit, but he built a sim from scratch that is one of the best flying sims I have ever touched. I fly them off, fly Velocidrone, I've flown liftoff, I grind DRL because I'm, trying to get that 75K in February. But he made a sim. He's super brilliant. He's put together some software tools for us for counting laps in some of these relay races. So we added Sky and Free Fall at that event. So we went to that event at XDC in qualifying. We qualified second behind, it was either Pyrodrone or Next Blades that qualified first, but we qualified second. So we were right up there with the best teams. We ended up finishing fourth. I hate fourth place. I can tell you that. I despise it. Fourth, I think I'd rather fifth unless there's a big money difference. So we got fourth at that event, which was still great. So that team, we beat Emacs. We might have beat Canada at that one, which, the rosters are all kind of like ours. You don't always have all of their pilots, Right. So, but we had a very good showing at XDC. And from there, that's where we went to Open Grove and we slaughtered the competition. I was live streaming, so they were slaughtering the competition. I was still so proud of that. Those guys did great. So we won there. Like I said, we beat Next Blades. We beat Pyrodrone. We beat Flight One. We beat a lot of really, really great teams. So that was a big honor. And it showed our guys that, hey, we're prepared. We can do this. But, everyone's stepping up their game, From there, a little bit of hiatus with team racing, but XTC was a big money race. Our team, won some money at Open Grove. The next one was the Velocidrone race. If you followed that, the California Speed Challenge with ASL, they did a race where you had to qualify on the sim. Okay. And then the race was a team race in real life. Okay. I guess my background with this racing stuff, I didn't really talk about it, but I struggled so much to keep these stupid flying robots in the air. It was weeks before I flew an entire battery. I remember being so excited that I depleted a battery, it took me so long. But a big part of that was at that time, the DRL sim was free. And so I had downloaded that DRL sim and started playing on it. And so sims have constantly been a big part of what I'm doing. And so I had flown the DRL sim, and I had spent a lot of time in the sims. Last year for 2018, technically, I qualified, I think, 13th for the DRL tryouts on their sim. It's gotten a lot more competitive, but I'm a pretty competitive sim flyer. So I was like, this is my chance. Here's an event where they need a strong sim guy, and I might be able to actually be a pilot here. So myself and Free Fall Chance was like, I'll figure the sim thing out. He's just so brilliant. We could make it, but we needed another pilot. And so we were going through the Velocidrone leaderboards, who might be a pickup. and we found Dallas, who is also known as Murica. Super fast pilot. That dude is unbelievably fast. And it was like, duh, we're Heart of America. We got to have Murica on our team. Right. So we picked him up for that ASL race. So it was Chance, Dallas, and then myself. And like I said, if I'm flying, it's kind of a bad deal. Mondo had gotten picked up. Mondo had gotten picked up and for the DCL League. And so he actually went over and flew with Quad Force One. So he would have been with us, but he was out of the country, I think. Could be getting my time. No, he was out of the country for – maybe he was just unavailable. Mondo was unavailable. He's a strong sim guy, and he's a great pilot. And a lot of our other guys just aren't familiar with the sims enough to be able to compete and qualify on the sim, because you had to take the same guys that qualified on the sim had to be the guys that showed up to race.
Right.
So we went to ASL. That one was a big money race. There was $25,000 on the line for that one. And we liked our chances because a lot of these teams were strong in the sim and okay in real life. Well, we had between Chance and Dallas, we had a very strong team and our preparation, which they did. ASL, they banned our pit switch at ASL to
that sucks.
Which we were like, bring it, bring it. We're gonna put it on, and that was still a fun event. So we qualified second for that one too, coming out of qualifiers. Made the finals. And in the finals, that was an interesting format. I liked a lot of things. So you're familiar with the relay races where you have to balance laps. So a lot of times if you have 3 pilots, then each pilot needs a minimum of 25% of the laps, which is 100% divided by 4. So it's like you add a pilot, and then like that way it can't get way out of whack. ASL, and I like that. I agree with the concept there. And this comes back to me being really nerdy about these concepts. I agree with that concept, but it's almost impossible to judge. So hard to judge because you're looking at OSD. I'm not sure if you guys have tried to judge a team race where you're balancing laps, but like at Sebring, it took them a day to get the results because the timing wasn't working. And I went back to the hotel, or not hotel, but the Airbnb, and I'm like, hey, I'm gonna judge. I'm gonna count every lap of all these other teams and make sure we don't get screwed. I'm gonna make sure our team gets right. I couldn't stay awake to count all the laps.
It's tough.
Hard. And then like you had the live stream, but then it's like you fall asleep for a second. The 20-minute heats when I got started over the entire heat. What's funny is that was my experience. Joe Scully essentially shared the exact same thing, that he was trying to judge and get the official results, and he kept falling asleep. And that's the thing, when it's a 20-minute heat, if you fall asleep at 19 minutes, guess where you're going? All the way back at the beginning. So it's hard to judge that balancing act, right? And then 2, what happens when a pilot has to share a quad? That comes up too, where pilot A runs out of quads and has to go up with the next one. At IO, you could just notify them that was happening, and they seem to do well with that. But at ASL, I said a lot to say that ASL, they did a format where there was no balancing of laps. So one pilot could have way more laps than everyone else, but you had to go in sequential order. Okay. So pilot A had to go, and then pilot B had to go, and then pilot C had to go, and then back to A. There was no skipping pilots. The next part that gets you is that a crash deducted 2 laps. Not a fan of that rule. You'll know why in a second. That should never be a rule. Which Frank Furter, I think, is what he goes by on the Facebooks, from Safety Third Racing. The best battery straps on the market, in my opinion. But Frank, he was a race director for that. And, all these races are hard. It's tough. But essentially that got to the end. When you're racing and when you're in the moment, it's hard for you to keep track of your own crashes, And I knew that I had a crash. I had a very stupid crash that made me crazy because I had my quad set up on the pit switch thing before I got there, before I knew it was banned. Like, they were set up that way. But at the time I was using pre-arm, and that meant that whether you were turtle moding or arming, you had to like select the pre-arm. You had to like go away from, let's say if it was like a 3-way switch, you had to go to position 1, then back to 2, and then go to turtle mode. So it was like an extra step there. And I had a silly little mishap where I just like hit a gate and went down. Like, it was on a concrete floor. I was out in the open. I could turtle moded over and saved our team 2 laps, But like in the heat of the moment, it's like, get the next pilot out, But in doing that, we forfeited 2 laps, So like we get to the end of the race, and the way the results come in, and it's all chaos from there, right? Like pilot. We're getting we're trying to catch the team that's leading, which was Team Elephant from Europe. Those dudes were ridiculous. Gosh, those guys were so fast and so consistent. They're like, we only need to fly at 75% to beat these mortals, they were good, right? But when it got to the end, we didn't. It's hard to know where you're at, and so everyone's like, "You got second," like you guys got second, and then it's like, they announced we got second by 1 lap. I think what it was 1 lap and then some change, and I'm like sick because I'm like, my turtle mode was all I needed to like do, and we would have won. It was big money. I forget what it was, but like, I think 10,000, it was a lot of money, whatever it was. But I was just sick about it. And like, I was sick about it, but I was excited. We got second, right? We got second at this huge race. It was phenomenal. Like, we got some prizes, and they're going to be sending us some money. And like, it's a race that a lot of the big team races, XDC, in that race, it was like they had the payout in a way that the last place team still got enough pay for travel.
Right.
So that's a good way to do these team races to people that can. And so it's like, we're actually going to make money. It's like,
it's a big deal.
It's good. Oh man, where it's not just going to cover our travel for the first time. And anyway, so we're excited, and we get the trophies. We get home, and then like a week later, I get an email. I'm like laying down for bed. I had another story at IO where I was laying down in bed, right? Laying down in bed, and before bed, I better delete my emails. And I get an email from Frank, like kind of outlining and saying that we miscounted, and you guys actually had 2 crashes. And I'm like just out of all the excitement, because the race got over, they announced that we won, and then they like shoved us to media. And so we had to do interviews because they shot a TV show, and then they like shoved us upstairs, and like just there was so much stuff that like I'm like, there's no, we didn't know. I remembered it how I remembered it. I crashed. That was our one crash. Like
right.
Like that was it. And he's like, no, there was 2 crashes. So I went and like poured through the DVR, and like I can't find a crash, but my DVR didn't have everybody,
right.
Because like when there was only 2 guys sitting down at a time ready. And so if they weren't sitting down plugged in, their goggles weren't recording, obviously. And so anyway, one of our other guys, he's like, oh yeah, Chance had a crash. But I was ready to like fight it tooth and nail, because I'm like, you're wrong, Frank, but we ended up getting 4th place. That's why I hate 4th place.
That's a heck of a story.
I have to give credit to Frank and the guys from ASL, Marquis, and those guys for wanting to get it right. It stings a lot less now than it did then. That stings. You come home, you're telling all your friends, you post it on Facebook, you got a picture of the trophy, and then you just like quietly got 4th place. Like
that happens.
That was hard. And it wasn't really fair to us, like I remember at the walkthrough, they almost kind of poked fun at Sebring for taking a day to like publish the results, like we're going to have a winner right away. And it's like, yeah, but it was wrong, so that when Team Canada ended up getting us on that one, I think, yeah, Team Canada took our 2nd place trophy. So I had to, not only did Team Canada beat us at IO, but I brought Team Canada my trophy and had to give that back. Dude, hey, Team Canada, I love those guys.
The rivalry, it's awesome though.
But I do, I absolutely love those guys.
Houston and the Cowboys.
Ryan Walker and Pew Pew. I have so much respect for Gab. I mean, those guys are so awesome, so much respect, but I want to beat them so bad I can't stand it. So I'm running through the whole history there. So we're almost done. After ASL, just a couple weeks away, was IO. And Mondo got recruited to China for DCL on Quad Force 1. And so he wasn't going to make International Open. A bunch of our other pilots weren't making it, and so we weren't going to do a team. So I actually started like pimping myself out because I got some team racing experience. I was going to be a pit guy.
Right.
Actually, I was literally in the team chat for Emacs. I was going to pit for them. Like that was the plan. And RaceBot, Tristan, our buddy Tristan, who's part of our team, he wasn't going to be able to go, but ended up one of our friends from Kansas City, I think, had a ticket he wasn't going to use, and I think Tristan got a deal on it or whatever. And Tristan, like a week ahead of time, was like, "I'm going to IO," So it's like, well, crap. So it's Tristan, myself, and Sia Tim. Sia Tim is another guy on our team that's very competitive with me, very brilliant. Sia Tim was working on our own pit switch for a while. Now that there's so many on the market, we're not going to mess with it, but Tim's a great dude. Like he's kind of he wants to be at the party. That's how I am too. Like I'm okay if I'm not a pilot. Actually, I would prefer not to be a pilot at some of these big races because that means our team is so freaking strong. More so than at Sebring, but at this point I'm somewhat of a respectable pilot. So if I'm not flying, then that means we've got a pretty good, strong team. I feel really good about it, right? I'm good. Yeah, I'm good with counting laps, and leading the way and trying to organize and, strategize and all that. So when RaceBot said he was going and Tim was going, it's like, well, we're going to have to put together a team. So we reached out to every time we needed a team member, I think I reached out to Nurk, because like he's on everybody's radar. He makes good vlogs. I've met him at all these races. He's a great dude. I love the way he shovels the crap around. You know what I mean? Like he likes to dish it out and he can take it. And like, it's a good time with Nurk when he's involved. So like he was always, and he's fast. He's world champ, baby. World champ, Paul Nurkula. He was always on our radar. Jaws was always on our radar. Like, I'd always try to invite Jaws out to different races we were doing and stuff. And, trying to recruit these guys, right? They've all been on their own teams and had their own successes, but we needed some more guys for International Open because International Open needed 4 pilots. So not only did you get the pit, but you needed 4 pilots. And so I reached out to Nurk and Jaws, and I don't remember how it went down, but they ended up being on Team Heart of America. And so RaceBot, myself, Nurk, and Jaws, that was definitely one of the pinnacles of my career so far. My career that makes $0. It cost me much more than $0.
Hey, hold on. That's professional sports right there. There's a lot of people that run that path.
Man, but that was a highlight for me, and this whole journey was just like scratching myself that like I'm on this team, Paul wasn't the world champ yet, but obviously Jaws has had his successes, like, and RaceBot, like it's unbelievable. And so it was a really great moment. We had some good racing, and we ended up taking home second place at IO in the team race at the international World Cup of drone racing, right? One of the first international events of its kind. And to take home second place was a true honor, and to fly beside those guys and have the teamwork that we had. And I remember the day of the first team practice, Paul and Jaws, Paul, Jake should have a first name too, I guess. If Paul's going to be Paul, Jake should be Jake. But we went to a park. I was helping them get smart audio set up to do the ditch channel, the graveyard channel. It was so wild because every single person, the first time that they have 2 quads powered on and they only fly one of them,
yeah.
Like you see like the light bulb start going off in their head because it's such a freaking cool experience, to be like, it's like I've arrived now, but it was neat to those guys at the levels that they're at to like have that kind of like, it works. That like, how does that work? Anyway, yeah, that was a highlight for sure. And now we're just really trying to organize. We're building this team fleet. Let me show you guys something. I know it's a radio show. What's the radio? It's a podcast. So
it's a podcast.
Not everyone's watching. Yep. Hey, if you're not watching, you get your little self over there to the YouTubes and look up Y Lamb and subscribe to that channel because you can watch this stuff in glorious HD. But we're building a team fleet. So what we're setting out to do, we've noticed there's always such a struggle with gear when we're coming to these team races because most of the time a team, not always, actually about half the time this year, most of the time you're going to a team race and it's like there's an individual race and there's a team race. And guys only have so many quads. And what's funny, it seems like the more successful the pilot, the fewer working quads they have. It's like, I'm a garbage pilot, but I show up with 6 perfectly working quads,
working.
It's always gear. So they show up to a race with their 2.5 working quads, trying to win World Cup or Spec or whatever they're trying to win. Like their mind's not even remotely on like making sure they have a team fleet ready or making sure that like their receiver protocol is set up in the right way or telemetry set up in the right way or that their switches are set up in the right way that it's going to work for the team event. And for us, I guess me as a captain and us that are trying to organize it, it's nerve-wracking to think like, obviously Jaws and Nurk, they know their gear, but like, is their gear going to be ready? Is it going to work? It's like, it's nerve-wracking. So, several months ago, we came up with the concept of trying to build a team fleet. And the idea is that we have a fleet of relatively identical drones that can be interchanged between pilots. So if we'll allocate so many to a pilot for an event, but if one guy gets low, we might take one from the guy that hasn't broken any yet, and bind it to his gear. And so in a perfect world, I like the Crossfire micro modules because they just like pop in the back because you can literally early on, I would actually doing this stuff, I would use 2 different modules and have 3 quads bound to one and 3 quads bound to the other one, or whatever, then it's just a matter of popping it out and popping the other one in and going. So Crossfire is a good candidate for that. And then FR Sky. So the plan is right now we're working on building out 12 drones. We're building out 6 of them on Crossfire. I like Crossfire. I'd had a lot of trouble with 2.4 antennas, primarily because I wasn't taking the time when I was still running 2.4. My builds were sloppy, and I was always chopping up my antennas. Moving to Crossfire, yeah, the range is good and stuff, but I think it was just that the Immortal T was kind of bulletproof. You just like zip tie it to an arm, or I zip tie it to the back. Look at that nice.
For that, it's perfect. So you're not going far.
I don't. Yeah, we're not doing it for range. You know what I mean?
Right,
so it's like it's going to be fine. We're doing that. I do. If any of you guys watching this, listening to this, know Trappy, beg him. We need a race mode for Crossfire where we can force 150 hertz and turn telemetry off. Right now, if you turn telemetry off, it forces 50 hertz. And at 50 hertz, everyone loves Crossfire and racers. I like Crossfire because of latency. Well, at 50 hertz, latency is worse than 2.4 S-Bus. So I still like the link is still superior. The link is still superior. I will still use it. But I would love to know that I'm getting the absolute lowest latency I can get. So anyway, we're building out this fleet. Big time shout out, like I said, to Mike over at Flight Club. He's hooked us up with 20 frames. So we sent some frames off to our pilots, kind of as a bonus to say, hey, build out this frame, check it out, get familiar with it, because these are going to be team builds. And then right now, I'm in the process of building out 12 of these identical-ish drones. Since we don't have actual sponsors other than the frame sponsor, I'm using a lot of the gear that I have around. The other plan is that we're not putting motors on these quads necessarily. I'm putting motors on some, but we're not putting motors and we're not putting cameras. Cameras are very specific to the pilot. So when, let's say, if Sebring happens and we identify the 3 pilots or whatever they're going to fly Sebring, we'll send each of them 4 quads. They can put their camera that they're used to in it, right? And then they can also put their motors in it, because the other reason is too, a lot of our pilots have their own motor sponsors. So that way they can fly their motors. We're putting race wire on everything. If you're not building with race wire, what's wrong with you? Race wire is great from a team standpoint. It's got to be serviceable, right? It sucks going from 12 solder points to hook up motors to 36. That sucks pretty bad. But we're building this for the serviceability for we're going to win team races with this. So we'll put race wire on it. For FC and stuff, the Pyro Drone FC has been very solid for us. We really believe in that. So that's in a lot of them. I've actually got 2 of Kevin White Noise's FCs coming. Have you guys seen that?
No, I have not seen that.
Has an FC coming out that's got a pit switch built in, and then you guys have seen the White Noise boards, right, for your VTX?
Yes.
Okay. Essentially, one side is your flight controller. The back side is a White Noise board.
Oh, so nice.
You solder. There you go. You solder your VTX and your receiver right to the flight controller. So it's literally the cleanest build you'll ever have in your life. I'm pretty excited about that. A lot of times, most of the time, we've been using the HV VTXs, and my understanding is his board is only compatible with the 5-volt stuff. So that's why we didn't do more of them, but we definitely want to test that out and see if, he's offered us an incredible deal to put them in our team fleet. So we might want to take him up on that. And then just the ESCs we have around, been talking to Hobby Wing. We would love to support their gear. We would love for their gear to support this fleet. We think they have reliable gear. We'd like to test some of it.
And that see if it's one is wicked, man.
Yeah.
It's pretty solid.
Yeah. So I've been chatting with Charlie quite a bit over there at Hobby Wing. We would love to represent them in this. But yeah, that's it. Having a fleet that is reliable, that we know our guys can trust in this frame. Just look at that. It's so ridiculous. If you guys haven't seen the Proton, they've got this aluminum plate that everything mounts to and bolts to, and you build all the internals, all the electronics of the quad on that aluminum plate. So it's like you got this like little pod, and then you add arms to it. It's like, it's really satisfying to get like everything but the motors done, and you got the VTX and the receiver and the, all the stuff just right there. And it's a really, really serviceable frame. Since that plate is there too, you've got recessed, M3 nuts on the bottom. So it's all flat. You're not digging into your batteries on the bottom of the quad. And then instead of going up into like an M3 lock nut, it's going into that aluminum plate. So there's no lock nut.
Nice.
So like I love the Foss frame. I love, like, Bob and Serge really changed the world with the way they made disposable arms that can be swapped out easily. Like, I thought that was brilliant. That's what this builds off of. But I'll tell you, being at a race, being in the cave, right, with no light. Yeah, I got like a little headlamp I'd try to use, trying to like monkey around with those silly M3 nuts is ridiculous, so it's nice. We're really enjoying that build. Really, really honored to have Mike, believing in our team enough to do this. And we need the events. Like, we're going to show up at these events. We would love for Sebring to happen, not just the team race, but I want Sebring for a precursor to Nats. I want to get warmed up in Florida, before we have to go like put it all on the line in Las Vegas. But we need the team events. This time of year too is kind of, if you guys know the real estate market, the real estate market this time of year slows down. So I have more time, I don't have the weather to fly, but I got the time to fly, so I'll be doing that. I'll be grinding on the DRL sim. I've done, all their tournaments they've hosted so far. I've gotten, they're doing a race to Vegas where a lot of the top guys are competing for like free airfare or a Racer 3 or a Swatch watch. So I've been doing that. I've gotten fourth both weeks on that stupid DRL thing. Wow. And I swear, here's the thing. In Vegas, DRL's doing their sim tournament in Vegas. That they published the gosh, I'm talking so much. I'm sorry. They published
don't worry about it.
The schedule for Nats today, but sandwiched there in Nats is going to be the sim tournament for DRL, and they're giving away the top three sim pilots there in Vegas get on DRL. The number one guy gets $75K, and I would love to be the number one guy. Don't get me wrong, because $75K is like that's real money, right?
Yeah, that's
right. That's real money.
That's salary right there.
That's like that 75K is me going to my wife and saying, "Look, babe, it was all worth it." Yeah. Coming home with $500 from a team race isn't exactly look, babe, it was all worth it. She's like,
right, because realistically,
3 times that to get there.
You spent $1,500 to get there.
So, but anyway, but what's funny is, so I've been getting fourth place and everything, right? And I just know I'm gonna miss DRL by 1, but that's not that's not the attitude I'm gonna have. Paul would slap me right now so hard. Keep your mindset right. So I'm gonna Nats for me is fun because last year I missed Nats. I didn't have what it took to get to Nats. I barely made regional finals last year, right? Yeah, the regional finals was nuts. I'll share that story with you another time. But I didn't make regional finals last year, I barely made regional finals. I didn't make Nats last year. And so this whole year after last has been me like, I want to make Nats. I'm going to be there. I'm going to Nats. This is going to happen, And so I'm excited to have that opportunity this year, but it's vacate. Nats for me at my skill level, I'm in the 90s, right, in my rankings on the list or in my total rankings. I'm 21st, I think, on the list. So wherever I'm at, I'm up there, right? So like Nats for me is vacation. It's fun. It's an opportunity to see all my friends. I love these guys in drone racing. I love this community. I appreciate Scully and Chris and all the guys that are pushing multi-GP forward. I'm honored to be a part of all that. I'm going to Vegas in regard to multi-GP for vacation. I'm going to have fun. I'm going to fly gear. I'm going to go fast. I'm going to see how I rank up in the nation, where I land in the nation, right? That's what that's about. I'm not going to win Nats, and I'm okay saying that. I don't think that's a bad mindset thing. I'm not there yet. But I will tell you, I'm going to grind and I'm going to do everything in my power to get that $75,000 contract on the sim tournament.
Hey, you got a chance.
You'll see me hashtag AK Numbers gives me a hard time. He entered the DRL tournament as Sim Hero, and I like to hashtag my things that. Like a good friend of mine that really got me into YouTube, he does slow pitch softball like reviews on YouTube. He was like, I didn't realize YouTube was a thing, and then he started having this following. But he's called the BP, the batting practice hero. is his YouTube channel. So like I kind of I copied off of him to start vlogging or whatever. And he didn't really vlog. He did reviews, but he felt like maybe I copied off of him for that. But now I'm copying for sure by being the sim hero. Because those guys. We're out there. Us sim heroes are out there that can I fly like Evan Turner in the Sims, but real life's another thing. So we're pushing, and we're going to be better tomorrow than we are today. So
that's a good saying right there. That's a heck of a story, man. I'm surprised you can remember it in that much detail. Like a lot of people cannot do that. I'm telling you.
I'd be like,
The important part is that you're doing so much that actually mimics other professional sports. And that's what's so interesting. I'm going to reference your arch nemesis, Team Canada, because the reason why you're very similar to Team Canada is because there's usually has to be one person that's the driving force behind the team.
Exactly.
And that person almost always has to be selfless. That person cannot be the prima donna, because he's the glue that makes everything work, right? And for Team Canada, it's Ryan, right? Ryan does all of the work nobody does, right? He's out there in the pits. He's getting hit by quads, and he's good at it.
Taking it for the team.
And when something bad happens, he has an answer. If you have never seen Team Canada race, there's a person with an answer, and that's what you need. And there's a person who delegates duties, and he's really good at it. So I'm basically saying kudos, Ryan, because he doesn't portray himself like that, but if you ever watch Team Canada race, he's there, and he's the core of that team.
He's the problem solver.
He's the problem solver. And for you, Shawn, you are the core of Team Heart of America because you're a problem solver. You can fit in multiple spots, but you're also forward-thinking, and this is where I think you're ahead of Team Canada in certain departments, in that you're never happy with where you're at. You're always saying, I can always improve a little bit better. Because the whole fleet of quads, people have thought about that, but you've actually implemented in it.
Starting it. I mean, that's crazy.
It's like, and when you implement it.
We talked about that for years.
Yeah.
Yep. And when you implement it, you're also not afraid to go out there and just say, this is what we're going to try. We're going to fail maybe, but you know what? The next time we're going to do better. And then we're going to keep going. Is that you never, ever, ever stop looking for talent. That's one of the biggest things that other teams kind of get wrong, is that no matter how hard you try, there's always going to be somebody better next year. It's crazy. Like top 100, you're the best in the nation. That's nothing to scoff at. Nowadays, you're fast if you're in the top 100, because every year I look at that roster, it's like, who's that kid? How fast is he? And it's people tell me, I'm talking pros, and they're like, dude, he's fast. It's crazy. But one thing that I would like you to talk about is I like the concept of doing death charts, because again, it's a very professional thing, right? When you have a fleet of drones, you're just segregating duties, which is what professional teams do, right? You want your pilots to fly fast. You don't want them to worry about equipment. When you're talking about, hey, who's actually the priority to go up there? Everybody knows, okay? There is no argument. It's like, here's the death chart. He's here, you're here. That's how it's going to be, just deal with it. That's how professionals run.
Baseball. I followed baseball. I used to I'm a Cardinal fan right here in Missouri, right? Got to love those St. Louis Cardinals. And, in baseball, you got a 40-man roster, but only 9 guys go on the field, at the beginning of the game. So, and each guy is going to have, a lot of guys can fill multiple roles, and, a lot you got your all-stars. And so when you can field your best team, you're going to field your best team. But sometimes guys are out, they got Tommy John surgery or whatever's going on with them. They're out. And so and we're a team. We started as a group of essentially friends, right? My Midwest guys, us original 5, like when we made that team, we kind of thought that we would wait till the day of the race and then decide who was going to fly. Early on, we were a lot closer matched than we are now. Like Amari being the North Central champion, like North Central is the toughest region in America by far, and so for him to win that, RaceBot, he just got back from China with the FAI race. He's one of the fastest in the country right now.
In the world. Mondo, in the world.
Well, absolutely. Yeah. And I'll tell you, like, had some things gone his way in China, that would have looked a lot different. People would be freaking out about RaceBot right now because no one has seen what that kid's capable of yet on that scale. So just wait. I can't wait to see what the future has for Tristan. So, and then Mondo 2 has just exploded. So like out of our first 5, Nick, who's like, my buddy that like, we're always really close with each other, the other 3 were excelling ahead of us, so it was pretty clear that they were the 3 that needed to race. And when we did our warehouse practice, we kind of came out of that saying, okay, I'm going to be the captain, and then Nick's going to focus on pitting. That way we could focus on those areas and be good at it. That way Nick could talk instead of all of us having to know how all of us want to put our batteries on the quad. Nick could talk to the 3 guys and know where that battery goes, how they like it strapped on, like where does it need to be shifted forward, back for the center of gravity so it feels right. You know what I mean? It made the most sense for one person to champion that. And it made, like I was good with not flying, from the get-go. But then, Nick, like he's wanted opportunities to fly too. He deserves it. It just hasn't worked out for him yet. But instead of being like, well, okay, you've pitted at 3 events, so now it's your turn to fly. I kind of like what you said. I just don't think that's the most productive and professional way to go about it. I am going to look for opportunities for us guys at the bottom of the list to fly in events. Had we been able to field a team for IO with the bottom 4 guys, we would have done it.
Right.
Because I wanted to honor them with the opportunity to fly there, but we didn't have enough guys to do that. So it's not that we're looking for opportunities not to get deep in the roster, but we haven't been able to, essentially. Like at the same time, in my opinion, especially on these races where you're getting paid for your travel, you win if you're on the team. You know what I mean? Like you and we all, money and splitting money. We haven't been in huge money yet. We've said all along, and things could change at some different time, but the way our team's structured right now, no one's getting paid more than anyone else. If you're pitting, you're getting the same cut as the world champ or whoever, we're getting the same cut because you showed up, you sacrificed your time, you put your money on the line to go and serve this team. Like, there's that equal honor. So if I go and count laps as a team captain, I'm at the party. You know what I mean? That's right. What I want. I want to be at the party. Honestly, I'm gonna about throw up every 3 seconds if I'm flying. So it'll be a blast. And here's what I've said to our guys is that I want to improve to the point to where you have to have me on the roster. You know what I mean? Like I want to earn it. I don't want to like get a charity spot. I want to earn my spot if I get to fly, or whatever. So doing that depth chart is important. We not only have I depthed out the pilots, and all 10 pilots have been depthed out. We've also got some support people too. So we've got Timothy from Colorado, his girlfriend Rhiannon. She's one of our like pit people. Like she can pit. She could pit. And actually, she pitted for us with Nick at XDC. She was a go-between because communication was a little rough there. And so we've got people. Robert, who is Chance's dad, was on the team. Robert was our primary pit guy at ASL. Like he was literally our pit guy. And so anyway, we depth all these things out in the sense that this is I'm our number 1 captain, right? If we have the choice of who are we going to have as the captain, I put myself there. I'm not saying I could do it better than anyone else, but I put myself as a captain because I started this whole thing by sending people Facebook messages.
Not a problem.
So, so we got a depth chart for captain, right? Like if for some reason the team is so good that Mondo doesn't get to be a pilot, he could be a really good captain too. There's some crossover there. And then the same with the pits, right? Like I'm probably not going to be as good of a pit person because of just my mobility or whatever, say as knick-knack. So like I might be the third string pit guy, so like just depending on how the event goes and what we need to field, we work down that list. And then if we get to the bottom of the list and we can't field a team with who we have, then we look outside. We've got people right now that we've talked internally that have showed some interest that would like to be on the team. Right now we've got 10 pilots. I think 10 is kind of a sweet spot. But if Sebring, we need to field a team for Sebring and we're a pilot short, like we're going to go out and recruit. We've got these guys in mind, but I don't want to add an 11th pilot right now and then still be short at Sebring. So it's let's wait till the next event, see what we're short, and then base who we recruit on that. And then once you're in the roster, you opt out. Like if you're not feeling it, we've got a good culture. In any kind of group, culture is so important. I feel like we found a pretty good stride in culture to where it's not, it's not overly negative. It's not critical. It's very helpful. You can tell like some guys turn off notifications and like ignore the chat for a while because it can get intense. I'm sure everyone's got 35 Facebook message threads that they're a part of, so like it's okay to like kind of bow out for a bit, but like if you're not feeling the team, if you want to go join some other team or Hobby Wing's going to pay you to go, like go, like there's no hard feelings or anything weird. We're going to beat you. Do you want
I like that.
But this competitive side it's the real deal to you. That's what keeps drawing you and that's what keeps pushing you. And, anyway, but yeah, the depth chart is an important thing. Otherwise, it's just willy-nilly, and it makes guys earn it. It makes guys earn it. I'm looking forward to this next year. And I've talked so much smack in this podcast that like everyone's gonna have it out for us.
That's okay. That's okay. Sorry. I think the market still is so young that we're all. You guys are starting to walk into that professional style, professional acting, professional thought process throughout the whole ordeal of the race, from getting there to getting home. We're still, hey, how you doing? Let me help you with this. Let me help you with that. And really, professional teams don't do a lot of that. You don't see Honda loaning out a motor to the Toyota team, you know what I mean? So eventually that stuff has to kind of be reduced to almost nil, or nil is what's going to happen for professional performance. It's just a doorway to show that the sport is trying to mature. You know what I mean? I've said that before. Eventually there's going to become some person. There's all of our pilots today try to be that person. And some of them are known for other things outside of drone racing, or there's pilots known that nobody knew until they came up on DRL, and then there's pilots that a lot of guys know, but we don't see them anywhere else. You know what I mean? Yeah. Like the DCL guys. There's some pilots that race with DCL we don't see doing any other races. That's just showing that it's starting to mature.
Yeah. And, I'm always honest too about like what I see, why from a team perspective, and I'm not investing crazy money into this. I'm investing hobbyist money that I would be, if I was into hunting, I'd be spending the same money on guns. Right. If I was into cars, I'd be spending the same money on cars. Whatever you're into, I'm spending hobby money on it. I haven't invested like it's a business necessarily. But I'm investing time and I'm pushing forward, and I am spending, we're all spending stuff on this, but the way I see the end game, like my road to quote unquote profitability, and I say that so loosely, but I would say, Heart of America is like, and I'm speaking for myself on behalf of the team as the captain, I guess, but like what I see the end game and the reason why I continue to push and make sure that, we do what we have to do to show up at events is because when a league comes along that wants to do team racing. So I'm a believer in drone racing. I think there's a future in it. I think on the individual side, there's no one doing it better than DRL. Like they're doing it right. DCL did a cool thing, but DRL is it's on another planet, so like they're doing it right and pushing it forward. And Like it's going great. I'm pushing Heart of America because when a league comes along that wants to do a team racing thing on that scale, maybe like the DR1, but they've got funding, right? So like they've got some venture capital and they're going to put together a team and they've got to get franchises set up. I want to make sure that my phone rings. That's what I'm pushing for, is I want to get the call to be on one of these leagues, because I think this relay race, and there's DR1, it's on beIN Sports or whatever, and I'm not trying to trash talk it at all. I got a lot of respect for those guys, and they're pushing and they're doing something good, but I can't even get that in my package, so like I haven't been able to watch the show. So I don't. In the past, they did like a team format similar to DCL, I guess, or I don't remember what the team. It was different. It wasn't a relay race. I think this relay race format is something that's very compelling. And that's what I'm looking for, someone to really invest in. And like I said, I want to make sure that Heart of America FPV ends up being a player in that. That our team is one of the calls that we get, and that they put out, and we accept the call, like we did with XDC, and we decided to do Open Grove, and I want to make sure that we the phone rings and we raise our hand and we're going to do it. So. And then we're building these pilots too. We're giving them a platform, hopefully. I mean, that's not always super evident, but hopefully we're building, we're putting them and helping build them. It's hard to say that we're adding a lot to, say, Jaws or Nurk's career, but maybe to some of the other pilots, like we're really adding some value in regard to their career and that kind of thing. So, we're all just moving forward, and we're going to make sure that we do everything in our power to crush these podiums. We just need the team races, organizers, team races, and look at XDC and look at ASL, right? They were both funded. They were both heavily funded by companies that don't mess with things that fly. Okay.
Right.
ASL was Infinity? Is that right?
Yeah. Internet provider.
Yeah. So like ASL had an internet provider. XDC, I think DJI was a sponsor, but really the sponsor was Caesars, Caesars Entertainment. Like we got to look for these sponsors, my events, right? If you see we got a dive gate now, and all my gates that I've purchased are thanks to our number one sponsor, Shawn and Christy Ames, your Central Mall home team at Advantage Real Estate, all the way down to the small, which we sell a lot of houses, but we're just local realtors, right? All the way down to like that kind of situation, which I'm not getting a lot of publicity for a race in my backyard necessarily, but we've done a 4th of July race at the community like 4th of July fair each year, and that does. Here we've got our flags and our stuff, and then there's these flying robots. And last year, Alex Vanover showed up. So here, we're able to stick our name as a business on this event. Like that is a way that can't quantify it. There's no way that, I got enough PR to justify what I spent on it. But at the same time, that's ability of me to justify it to my wife, I guess. So anyway, look local. Stop trying to, the vendors, the thing. I'm going to get on another tangent real quick. I'll make it so quick, but I got to get this one out. So often, every day on Facebook, on some poisonous group, and I'm not pointing anybody out. Every group is poisonous one day or another, okay? Someone posted like, the FPV market is dying. FPV's going away. And I don't think that's true at all. I think that people that got into it 3 years ago got everyone around them that was going to get into it, and all they've done since then is watch them fall off. Like people get out of things. There's a cycle, right? Right. I've ran marathons. I've played guitar. I've done music. I wanted to have a recording studio. I vlogged daily. I, had a real estate photography business. Most of those things have gone. We go through. We take things on. Certain personalities, especially these drone racing, flying kind of guys. It's gonna fade. You're gonna get out of it. It's fine. There's nothing wrong with that. But it happens. And just because your circle, what you see is people dropping out. To that, and Kansas City and St. Louis, those are two places that I'm actively involved, right? Because I'm right in the middle. My first race I went to was in Kansas City. And in Kansas City over the past few years, they say, hey, we're going to have a race Saturday, and 35 people show up. It's nuts. Okay. It's nuts. But there was a huge boom 2 years ago. And then, people have kind of dropped. They've done pretty good, I think, at adding people over time, that they're still getting good amounts of people showing up at races. The flip side of that, though, so it hasn't had explosive growth, but it hasn't. I'll tell you, Kansas City is a strong drone racing market. And they have subterranean caves, too, that are huge. They did a cave race last year after that one, and it was cheap venue. So if the cave isn't tied to a geographic location, that might be something for people to look at. But so Kansas City is a really strong place. St. Louis, on the other hand, a year and a half ago, one of the guys there kind of took over a chapter that I got the impression that had gotten a little poisonous. And then Brian Gill, who was a phenomenal organizer and race director there in St. Louis, started giving some structure to it and got it like tied in with their parks department. So they had a permanent field, right? And started doing all these things. And now St. Louis, they've got some freestyle guys, and it's exploding over there now. Now it's like literally this week on their page, I've seen like 3 people like, I'm new to the hobby. I just ordered all my gear, like I'm going to be building. Can't wait to race with you guys, or can't wait to get out and freestyle. So like it's the pockets that you're in where you see the growth. Okay. So all that aside, I think it's just a mindset thing and how you look at the world in regard to everyone's getting in or everyone's getting out of FPV. I don't think you can rely on that. It's emotional, right? It's not fact-based. It's just your narrow focus, like the people it's based off of that. So that's fine. Yeah, most people see their friends getting out of it. They don't see people getting into it. That's fine. You can't, quantify that. Now, vendors have a legitimate reason to be able to say yes or no, business is up or down. Okay. I believe business might be down, but there's 5 times as many manufacturers manufacturing things now. You know what I mean? You're sharing the market. I'm not mad at you. You can say whatever you want, but it's just the fact that like now you're sharing the market. Yeah, TBS's numbers might be down, but they're probably up because they make great freaking gear. Like I won't run a different VTX in TBS. Like it's so stinking good. But there's a lot of other ones on the market now. And I'm not just talking Banggood. I'm talking like legitimate companies,
right? That's true,
making their own VTX. Like there's people, shaking it up. Yeah, the numbers might be going down, but it's not because the hobby is shrinking. I think that's banana farts or unicorn farts or whatever.
Farts.
I'll say this. I think the fact that in each industry we have like when something starts, you get the core guys who started, who were doing it kind of in the backyard, in the closet or whatever, in the basement or whatever. Like the Raspberry, like I look at it as like the Raspberry Pi or the Arduino stuff, Yeah. Like there was a time when there was nobody doing it. And then there was like these few little guys that you could get this information from. And then the market exploded, right? And it just like everybody had Arduino stuff, and there was like thousands of guys talking and conversing on forums and stuff. And then kind of like it just kind of simmered down a little bit. You know what I mean? This market, just like all markets, are hype driven. And when you have this hype driven markets and people get excited about stuff, they rush into stuff, they jump head first, and don't look. And they spend thousands of dollars, and then they realize, oh, you know what? I really can't do this. Like I have to be a father, I have to be a family man, or I can't think about my job. I'm failing. Yeah. You take on things and you expand and absorb everything that you can. And I'm the same way, and so is why. Take away time from every other thing else. And that over time, you have to make a decision like, hey, you know what? Like I spent $30,000 last year, doing whatever it is. You know what I mean? That's just a number. And it's not coming back. Like we were talking about the racing, even if you go to the race and you win $500, it cost you $1,500 to get there. 4 or 5 times like that, you're $6,000 in the hole. You know what I mean? Even if you did win 4th place every time, what I mean?
No, you're so right.
That can make pilots have to make a decision. Like
Yep.
I know a couple of pilots right now that used to be great racing pilots and were very competitive, and one or two of them were on DRL, no longer on there. They had to move on because things just don't add up over time. You know what I mean? These drone races over the last 3 years have been kind of hit and miss stuff. Like, yes, you had 4 or 5 of the best pilots in the world racing in the last heat. The only real reason why none of them won because they crashed. You know what I mean? And they got a little piece of the pot. They didn't get enough. And after time, it just adds up, and you have to whittle out. Over time, you have to make a decision on whether or not a reduction in whatever your savings is or your pay or all of that. And that's how you end up retiring, like most of the older guys have.
It's a young man sport, like many other sports.
Young and dumb.
No.
Dude, these kids are brilliant, man.
Yeah.
I mean, not dumb as in non-intelligence. I mean, just like us older guys, we know better. We know better than running around the corner. You know what I mean?
Shush.
That was something like I would do when I was younger. If I heard a noise, I would run around the corner. Today,
you're gonna peek around that corner, huh?
Today you go the other way. You're like, I'll let somebody else handle that.
I mean, I'm just saying.
I think the kids in this sport, though, like, they're not your normal kids that pick this stuff up. You know what I mean? There's some, but they're not. And I'll tell you, in drone racing and kind of like back to that dream race thing, is there are a lot of things that take you out of the air that are not your fault. Like, it's not you made a mistake racing. You could get hit, or you could have equipment fail. Equipment's gotten so much stinking better. But equipment fails sometimes, or like sometimes you get taken out because a gust of wind. There's just so many things that can take you out that aren't necessarily your fault, and that is hard. That is hard emotionally, right? I'm thinking back to the ASL thing emotionally, when I had to eat the fact that we didn't get second, we got fourth, right?
Right.
When I had to eat that emotionally, like how that like laid on me, and then I'm thinking like, there's 15-year-old kids. Chance was on our team. Chance, free fall, right? And free fall, like, very well could have been the national champ last year, right? He was inches from being the national champ. Now, if you guys remember the story last year at nationals, Alex Vanover and free fall was the TQ on the on the thing for the weekend. Chance owned that track last year. He looked so good on it, and it wasn't, Alex isn't in no way to blame. He earned everything. But like, looking at that, Chance was flying so well, and it was just a fluke thing that they had a midair, and MultiGP is working on addressing the rule of what happens in midairs. That maybe it shouldn't be a measuring contest. They both mid-aired. It was a transfer position, so one of them was going to get second and one was going to get third, right? Top two move on, okay? It was transfer position. They mid-aired, and no one can say Alex, by skill, landed further ahead. Like in a mid-air, it's like it's
random.
At that point, you might as well put it all on black. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like it's a roulette wheel. So gosh, Alex is such an impressive kid too. He came and raced at our July 4th race. But so impressive and so talented, and he's like 300 times better than he was at champs last year. He's so stupid fast. Anyway, it was a luck thing that took Chance out. Right. And then Alex moves on to be your national champion. That's hard for an adult to take.
Right.
Imagine being 15. You know what I mean? Like, I was upset because the girl I liked didn't look at me back in the hallway. You know what I mean? Like, I couldn't emotionally take, math class, let alone, missing out, like, it's just what I'm getting at is that there are things that are emotionally devastating that happen in this sport that these kids are taking. You know what I mean? That I didn't. I was a pretty bright kid or whatever. I was a mess as a kid. I'm not even joking. But like, these kids are taking it and they're handling it so well. And every time I have a conversation with one of them, whether it be Chance, right, whether it be Evan, so impressive. Olaf, I think, is an impressive kid. Olaf got a lot of crap about his pit switch, that he stole the idea from somebody else, and I'm sitting back here thinking, you stole the idea from me. No one stole the idea. It's a freaking light switch, for your VTX. But anyway, these kids are super bright. They're just kids, and we need, as adults, we need to recognize that. They're kicking our butts. So I think sometimes we forget that they're 15, 16, that they're kids. Like, they're kids, and they're handling themselves so well, and they're demolishing everybody. And there's just so many young pilots that are so skilled. Alex Campbell, the chief, he was I went to the Indy race that they had, the pumpkin dash, and Alex was like men amongst boys, at that Indy race. Like, he was just so dominant at that race. And those boys that I'm speaking of were like the world champion
yeah.
and the sim champion Jaw. I mean, they were legit. Like, Johnny Fly was there, Fly's doing it for the old guys. I really like him. I like Johnny Fly quite a bit. We drive the same brand of car. His is a white one and mine's a black one. So I think like he's the good and I'm the evil. I'm going to take him down. But anyway, I want to fly like Johnny. I have fun with all this, and I really like the guys. I enjoy all the content. I'm an absolute podcast junkie. You guys, I used to drive a lot for work, and so I really enjoy putting on these podcasts. It's a real honor to be on here, and I just want to tell you guys thank you, for having me, and I look forward to to all of your episodes. I tell you, you get those racers on, and I'm like, I watch it, listen to it the second it comes out. I'm trying to like get that like rubbed off on me. Sean Taylor doesn't put out a video I don't watch within 30 seconds. You know what I mean? Like, if you want to be great, man, you watch what the great do, and really analyze what makes them great. The Joes get to race with the pros. In one of my vlogs last year, right at MDX, I think I had my GoPro with me, like on the flight line, and I crashed out in the flight line. And so I took my GoPro out and I turned it on, like pointed around, and it's like, I'm sitting here. I just got done flying. I'm garbage. So I've already crashed on this 3-gate track. I should be able to fly, but I'm sitting in these seats flying, and right next to me is Gab 70-freaking-7. Oh, by the way, on the end there is FPV Provo. That's the coolest thing. It's similar to the poker boom that happened in Las Vegas a few years ago. You saw these superstars on TV, and guess what? You can put up your 10 grand and go play against them if you want. You know what I mean? Like, that's the neat thing that this sport gives you, is that if you can get a quad on the right VTX channel and make sure it's on 25 milliwatts, you can show up at an Indy race sometime and literally see how you rank up, how you rack up against the world champ. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like, you've got that opportunity here to really compete against and learn from, and these guys are nice, So anyway, I love all this, and I appreciate you guys having me on. After this, I'm gonna have to change my pilot handle to most overrated pilot in FPV. Like, no idea. On FPV podcast, but anyway, I just really appreciate you guys, and looking forward to everything you put out.
There's one suggestion amongst many, but
please.
we're gonna try to. And if Elvin has a suggestion, make yours quick, and then we're gonna wrap up. But you have your team squared away. But I would also encourage you to start a depth chart on PR spots, on people that come specifically just not to provide content for the team, or not solely just for that, but also provide content for your pilots, because your pilots have to be concentrating on their racing, but there should be some person that's also creating content for them, so that when they have a moment, it's like, here's some pictures and here's some video for you to post on your social media. It's going to help us overall. This person's here to do that, and he's going to do it well. He'll share it with everybody, and that will help your team just overall in general, because not only are they getting taken care of that they can fly, but they know that their social media stuff will be taken care of and it will be done professionally. And like, for professional pilots, like, what I talk with Paul and some of the other DRL pilots, that's starting to become more important in their priority list, because it has to be. It absolutely has to be.
Yeah.
So that's my only encouragement for you to think about.
No, that's brilliant. Absolutely.
No, I'm good. I'm only providing one because this is going to be like a 2.5 hour podcast as is. I have a lot to edit.
It's already there.
What's the longest one yet?
Trappy at 3:14 or something like that.
All right, that was let me get a soda.
Hold on.
I'm not here to be second place. What do you?
I'll say. I have to second what Wise talking about. That's one of the things that we talked about when we came from Hawaii, is that we didn't have one person that took care the media stuff. We didn't have, and we've noticed that from other races too that we've gone to. We tried to, like when we went to Indianapolis. Delaware. And we talked about that. We should have had one person just doing media stuff. Like that person would have took care and kept the hype rolling, kept the heat, the eyeballs on us, all of that. And everybody needs that. And that's one of the things that I talk about too, as the FPV community. We see all these videos with, one guy, another guy, this guy, that guy. Every once in a while you see 2 guys or 3 guys at the same place, but you never see a video of all the pilots doing something together and sharing it as a whole, as a group. You know what I mean? So that those things help build on your team reputation. It's the presentation of the team, where they get to see what's going on behind the scenes, how you guys are having fun and doing stuff together. And those things, like, going to a race like you did when you went to Megadrone, where we met you, like that whole lead up, you know what I mean? Like the meeting up at the airport, getting the car ride, going to the hotel, going out to your first meeting, going to the pilot's meeting. All those things are relevant and need to be broadcast.
No, you guys, I think you're spot on, man. So thank you. I appreciate that. The content side of it can't be overstated. Absolutely. Right. Just the value to the team, value to the sponsors, value to the sport in general, because it's the stories. And I shared this. I got to, flight test was a part of my story in getting here, right? At ASL, they were there interviewing. They did some content for it, and I got to be on a flight test episode. And I'll tell you the same story. It closed out. Same story I told there was, I think of this sport and what we're doing in this sport right now like football was 60 years ago. We're all just a bunch of fat guys running around with leather helmets on, right? Mm-hmm. Knocking ourselves stupid and silly, trying to figure it out. Like, if you would have asked someone and I don't follow football. I don't follow football super close. So I can't tell you who the players were 50, 60 years ago, but I guarantee you that they had no idea what the NFL would look like today, No. And even I'm hearing rumblings now, St. Louis is getting an alternative league team for football. Professional football is coming to, because we lost our Rams, right? We lost our Rams to the Los Angeles. But anyway, no one 50 years ago would have known what the NFL was going to look like today. We in this sport, we're just a bunch of fat guys running around in leather helmets, like playing this, doing this thing that no one else understands, right? Out of the passion that we have for it. We don't know what it's going to look like, but I do know that it's going to take stories. It's going to take heroes. It's going to take villains. It's going to take underdogs and
rivalries.
And so we got to, rivalries. Yeah. Canada, you watch it. And it's going to take that's what it takes, though. I mean, it needs that. It's not just the racing. Like back to baseball, St. Louis Cardinals fan. Being from this area, I was from Missouri my whole life, pretty much. I lived in Illinois for a bit. I knew of the Cardinals. If you asked me, I was a Cardinals fan. My daughter's first birthday, a guy by the name of Rick Ankiel used to be a pitcher for the St. Louis Cardinals, and he was like this phenom, right? Out of like high school, like he was like young 20s, like left-handed, like starting pitcher, like had the sickest like breaking pitches ever. I didn't really follow baseball when he was a pitcher, but on my daughter's first birthday, he got called up from the minors as an outfield playing power hitter. Okay. Oh, he was a pitcher, but he, like, in the playoffs, he like fell apart and like forgot how to pitch. Like he was throwing balls at the backstop. Like couldn't even just completely lost it. And like people speculated that like he had a bit of like a mental breakdown. Like he went from being like the future of Cardinals baseball to like not even in the sport anymore. But by determination, he came back to the sport, Babe Ruth style, right? Because Babe Ruth was a pitcher that came back to the sport. I don't know that he left the sport, but he then transitioned to being a power hitter. Rick Ankiel did that same thing, came up from the minors, and I want to say, I could be wrong on the facts, but he hit a couple of home runs in his first appearance back from the minors. And a player from the minors hitting 2 home runs, I think that's a big deal statistically, but a player doing well out of the minors isn't a big deal. A player that has that backstory, that everyone in St. Louis that saw him fall apart in the playoffs 5 years earlier or whatever knew, right? That backstory and seeing him again was like mind blowing, right? And I didn't really follow it, but I heard that story, and I didn't know who he was, but I heard that story and it was so compelling to me. Like baseball was like a passion of mine then for like 2 years. Like I watched every game and I was like so into it because like I was such a fan of that story, and then because that story sucked me in, then I became a fan of the game. I could understand and appreciate the nuances of a baseball game. And let me tell you, there's some nuance, hard to follow, bad for spectator stuff in baseball. Okay?
Oh yeah.
Right. Like
baseball's hard to watch.
But I'll tell you, when you get sucked in, it's like your world, the same with NASCAR, right? Like there's like, it's that story. You got to be sucked in by that story. So people need to know about, guys like Sean Taylor, who blew out his knee and, is on this massive comeback, destroying it in DR1. Like people need to know about Nurk, who was there as a pit guy the first year. Right. And got his way on and sucked the whole first season, not the whole first season, but got dead last at his first episode, the first track of his DRL career. And then, people need to know those stories, and they're important, and it's what's going to draw people in, we need these superstars. So gosh,
Vanover hurting his hands, that's important stuff like that.
It is
that like, I was kind of shocked over time, and I'm trying to help you with this 314. And people need to know that that's a debilitating thing. That has taken a few pilots completely out of drone racing, their hand injuries, and put them at the bottom of the list quickly. And he came back from that, which is that's a story in itself. You know what I mean?
All right. You two stop it, because we're ending this. All right, folks, we are. This is a long one.
Call me later, Elvin. Okay.
Yeah, man. Yeah.
Sean,
if you need help, that wing, man.
Yep. There you go. Go watch the Define episode. Maybe you'll find a wing you actually like. It's good tech stuff on there. But we're wrapping up this episode. It's actually great talking to you. There's so many discussion points that I would love to talk to you more about, but we can only do so much in a couple of hours of discussion. And there's hey, you know what? With every sport, the complexity has to rise to meet the popularity. I'm just going to leave with that quote. And but before we go, Shawn, if people want to reach you, contact you, where should they go?
Yeah, Facebook just works so well. I'm on Facebook. Find me there. My YouTube channels, obviously, if you want to see some cringeworthy vlogging stuff, I want to see those numbers go up. Life in the Flyover is that vlog. If you want to see 365 days of my life in the Flyover, it's literally chronicles, and it wasn't intentional, right? It was not intentional, but it literally chronicles my entry into this sport. So check that out. And then that channel I built to like 2,000 subscribers, but I felt bad. These were people that had tuned in for like family vlog content. I didn't want to just start like boom. They had already gotten so much FPV stuff when I knew I was going to stick with this, I decided I would start over. And so I've got a new channel, Heart of America FPV. It's a couple years old now, but Heart of America FPV, look that up on YouTube. Definitely check that out. And look for us. Join our chapter on MultiGP. Consider coming out for the Dream Race, whether it be December 8th or sometime in the future. But MultiGP, we're Heart of America FPV. I'll see you at Nats. You're gonna see me tearing up that sim tournament, and I can't wait. Talk to me. I have time. If you see me at a race, I have time to chat about it. Yeah, I don't care what you want to talk. You want to talk about what KV you run on your motors, or why I think the Proton's the best one that's ever been made. Let's talk.
Yep.
Never feel I was intimidated by guys, and some guys were more friendly than others, but for the vast majority of them, they were way friendlier than I ever thought they would be. So don't be intimidated. Ask questions. Come bug me, bug everybody else. Like this is a family, and we're excited. And if someone's not excited about someone new in the sport, then shame on you. So that's the best race you can ever win, is getting new people in the sport. So yeah, look me up on Facebook, YouTube, subscribe, click an affiliate link sometime, and buy something really expensive. That'd be great. We would all love that, right?
Gotta pay those bills. Hey, let's keep it real.
Anyway, guys, thank you. Good night. Take it easy.
All right, we are out.
Yep.